So you want to upgrade your car audio system and add speakers, subwoofers, and maybe even a new head unit. In order to do this right, we need to plan. So what are some important things to look at when first planning a system? What about if you're doing this for another person? What are some questions to ask them to better understand what they are looking for in their new system? I'm Mark, welcome to Car Audio Fabrication. We're going to be doing these things in this video because I'm starting a new project on a 2017 Volkswagen Jetta. I wanted to bring you guys along for the ride as part of this planning process for this system, because once you understand this process, it can be applied to any vehicle. And it can help you make better choices for choosing gear in a car audio system. Without further ado, let's design, build, and install. So the first thing I want to do here in the Jetta is go on a little fact-finding mission and check out our different speaker locations. Now right away on this vehicle, there's obviously a speaker down here in the door. Usually there are in the cars. It looks like they have an option for a factory premium system that probably adds a tweeter here if I had to guess. This vehicle does not have that option, so there's no tweeter here, and I know that it would be nice to add a component set of speakers where we have a woofer and a tweeter, so of course I'm going to look for a good area to possibly do that. I'm looking at this sail panel here. This is separate from the rest of the panel. I can tell just by lightly moving this plastic, so this might be a good idea for a good location for a tweeter. I like the idea of using that location for the tweeter because it's up a little bit higher than this location here. And I also like that location better because if we look over at the driver's side, there's a switch there in that spot. I don't want to have to relocate that. That's a better spot acoustically anyhow. So that gives me an idea where I could put the tweeter and obviously the woofer. Next up, I'm going to look at the back door here, and it looks like, again, we have a speaker located in the door, and this is a little bit confusing. Why would they have a woofer and tweeter in the back but not in the front? I was like, that seems kind of interesting. Is there even a speaker in here? So I shine my little light, and as you can see, sure enough, there's not even a speaker in there. But now I do know that this is probably an easy location to use for a tweeter if need be. But I can keep that in mind in case I want to do rear components instead of just rear coaxial. A quick look at the rear deck shows me that there's no speakers back here. And just to verify, I will look in the trunk. And by looking back here, this verifies there are no speakers in this rear deck. Now, a good way to verify this information and to double check the speaker size without actually physically measuring is to hop on my favorite research site here, Crutchfield. I'm going to put in 2017 Volkswagen Jetta. And in this case, we do not have the fender system. We can see Crutchfield's research here of the vehicle, the different speaker locations, and for the head unit, I'll of course be using their information here in order to choose the head unit, but right now I just want to double check and verify what size speakers fit in the front and rear doors, and this is what I predicted. Plenty of 5 1/4 speakers will fit, and 6 1/2 inch speakers will fit as long as they're probably not too deep of a mounting depth. So now that I've collected that information, I know what I need to do speaker-wise. The one other thing you want to do is you want to see if the vehicle has any identifying badges that will tell you that the vehicle has a factory premium system. As an example for the Jetta, you would be looking for something like this that tells us that it has the factory fender system. That gives us more information to determine if the car has a factory premium amplifier and other details on the system. The next area I want to look is in the trunk, and I want to make a plan for our subwoofer and ultimately our amplifier rack. Now, I always like to make sure that cars can still be functional. We want to make sure that we have access to our spare tire, and I can see that the hinge point is down there. And what's nice about that is it's actually about, I don't know, I'd say maybe a foot to 14 inches from this part of the trunk, which tells me that I could potentially use this area for a cool amplifier rack, really dress it up and make it look nice. There's also the option of adding amplifiers on the sides. I think I'd like to use a subwoofer over here. We'll see how the plan comes together, but I do want to take some measurements here. That way, when I'm doing my product research, I can determine if we have enough space. In order to record all those dimensions, I like to take a picture using my tablet, and then I'll take that picture into a drawing program and draw lines on the picture, measuring each of those different lines and adding that dimension to my notes. Another good thing to check out on our little fact-finding mission here is to look at the battery terminal and see if that's going to pose any issues for us. This is a relatively simple terminal. We might need to do some light modification just to connect these wires to a new aftermarket terminal in order to add our amplifier positive lead running to the back of the vehicle, but no big deal here. I usually take a picture of this too, just for record's sake. Next up, I want to get a feel for how the factory system actually performs. So to do that, I'm going to be using the audio control DMrta. And this is the perfect time to thank show sponsor Audio Control and tell you guys a little bit about this device. You could have the best amplifiers, subs, and speakers in the world, but in order to make them sound great, you have to have the right tools. What's unique about the DMrta is this combines several different tools in one that we can use for setting up our car audio system. A couple of examples, there's a voltage meter that we can use with a speaker level connection in order to determine what type of integration piece we should use. There's of course an RTA that we can use to measure both the electrical response, or we can use it with a microphone to measure acoustic response. We'll be doing that in a second. Got an SPL meter here, also a polarity checker so we can make sure that our speakers are in correct polarity, and an oscilloscope so we can analyze the waveform and make sure that we don't have any clipping. If you want to learn more, I definitely recommend checking out the link down in the video description. You can download the manual and read through it and get an idea at all the awesome capabilities this thing has. We're here in the vehicle. I've got the microphone in the listening position here. We're going to play some pink noise in a second. But one other thing I always like to check is see where the current vehicle owner has the stock settings set on the head unit. This is usually a good indicator of what they're looking for more out of their system. It looks like he definitely wants some more bass. It looks like mid-range and treble were adjusted equally, so definitely some more bass. And I like to put this back to flat just to get an idea what the stock system is actually performing as. All right, so we've got pink noise playing in the vehicle. That's what you can hear in the background. It sounds like static. We've got the microphone connected to our DMrta, which is connected to our computer so that we can look at the factory system here and see how it's performing. Let's slow this down a little bit and let's talk about this curve. So if you see this kind of ghosted image in the background, that's the audio control house curve, and that's a good curve that we like to tune to have a nice even sounding system. Now you can see on this system right now from the factory, it looks like they have plenty of bass, plenty of mid bass in the 40 hertz up to a 160 hertz range. It looks like we're kind of lacking on the low end. Everything below 40 hertz really seems to drop off quick, so we're definitely going to want to add a subwoofer to this system. It looks like the mid-range here is really lacking. There's quite a dip there, and this is a lot of where your vocals are in songs. We definitely want to bring that more in, and then the highs are also rolling off pretty rapidly there. Not a very great response, but that's typically what we see with a stock audio system, and after all, that's why we do what we do. All right, guys, so we are here in the vehicle now. I'm here with my buddy Matt, and the last thing I like to do is actually have the driver of the vehicle in the car. I know this isn't the best camera angle here, but we want to do a little bit of a listening test because I want to see what type of music he normally listens to, what his normal listening habits are as far as what he likes to use for sources. I think earlier you were talking about how you like to use Spotify. So that's important to know because if somebody primarily listens to CDs, we want to know that so we know we need to retain that feature when we upgrade to a head unit. Or if somebody primarily uses Spotify and their phone, that's good to know as well, along with knowing Apple or Android, what type of phone they have. So we're going to do a little bit of a listening session here, and then we'll bring you guys up to speed. All right, so we just did a little bit of a test listen. Actually, Matt is a lot like I am. One of the first things he likes to do is load up the Spotify playlist with the latest liked songs, and some of your latest songs were a lot of EDM, some rap, and that's kind of what I figured because I didn't tell you this yet, but I looked at like the stock EQ settings on the head unit as is here, and the bass was turned up, so that told me right away, this guy, he needs some more bass.
Yes, sir.
For sure. So we can definitely make that happen. All right, so there's a couple more questions I want to ask Matt really quick. First of all, like, what do you like about the current system?
I like the sound quality. I feel like it has a really solid sound quality along with the bass. What I don't like is sometimes it can be a little staticky, I think.
Okay. Is it when you're turned up more that it seems kind of like staticky, almost distorted?
Yeah,
or?
I would say when it's turned up.
Yeah.
I like to play my music pretty loud,
yeah.
I would say.
Okay,
So,
especially if you're a loud guy, like that's where you can really benefit from having an aftermarket system because the speakers are built to handle a lot more power. You know, they're made to excel when you're playing at a much louder volume. So when you mention static, a lot of times when people say static, it's more the fact that like the speakers are being overdriven and like the actual factory amplifier or the amp in the head unit is being overdriven and pushing you into distortion, so like you can hear that kind of like staticky crackling noise, especially with the added bass. So we will definitely take care of that as well. So on the factory head unit here, obviously like all factory head units, and this is a feature we can retain, but like when you put it in reverse, you get the backup camera and that kind of thing. What other features do you like about the factory head unit?
I do like that it has the Apple CarPlay, yeah.
Yep. Okay. We can definitely keep that with going with an aftermarket head unit. Does this have navigation?
It does not have navigation.
Yeah, only if you connect to like Apple CarPlay, then it does. Yep. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so like, you know, those are all features that we can keep as well when we upgrade. So one thing I did notice kind of playing around on this head unit is it is kind of slow to response.
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
So with an aftermarket head unit, we'll be able to improve that. So yeah. And the last question I like to usually ask here is, when you get in the car, do you usually like plug in your phone because you want to charge it, or do you just kind of leave it in your pocket? Or
so usually I'll just put it right here in this little cup holder or on this well right here, and I'll just connect right to Bluetooth or plug it in right away.
Okay. So you do use Bluetooth often too? Okay.
I would say Bluetooth more than plugging in.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know too, because there are head units that are starting to come into the market, like aftermarket head units that have wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. So no guarantees, because it's like, you know, it's still limited to only a few models, but maybe that's a feature we can add too. Again, no guarantees, but that's definitely something we'll try to consider. Okay. So cool. Now, originally my plan was to actually pick gear in this video, but I think I want to make it more interactive because I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you think. Knowing that we can only use this area of the trunk, what would you do for subwoofers and amps? And what about speakers and the head unit? Keep in mind that the system does need to run on the stock electrical, so we're not going to add 50,000 watts or anything super insane like that, but we can definitely get a great sounding system with a ton of output on that stock electrical if we design it right. So let me know what you guys would do. In the next video, I'll be showing you guys my plan, and then of course I'll be showing you the full install and build. So if you are new here, I would love to have you as a subscriber. A special thanks to Audio Control for being a monthly channel sponsor. Learn more about the DMrta Pro Kit, this bad boy right here, by checking out the link down in the video description. Also, a special thanks to Mike, Ron, Ali, Jerry, Marcos, William, and the rest of the Patreon membership team. A big thanks to all those guys for making these videos possible, and thank you for watching.